Lorraine and Donna from the office, we appreciate your time making it happen. Madam Chairperson, Dan, do we have a quorum today?
Yes.
Yes, we do. All right, so we can get this meeting open. Let's open with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jerry Bescavoin. At the pleasure of the Board of Directors, I serve as their chairperson and spokesperson. It's quite an honor for me, especially in a beautiful community like this. I know the concept of this community was created back in the 1960s. It wasn't officially incorporated until 1971, and from there on out, it took off with a little bit of hiccups along the way. In the mid-1970s, and John, I'm not going to speak too much on the history. And anybody, please feel free to correct me. I know there's a lot of old timers here in the audience that are very familiar with it. In the mid-1970s, there was a little bit of a hiccup. Financially, the developer got into trouble. Mr. Jordan, who's with us here today, whose son serves on the board of directors with us today as well, got together with a group of other property owners, collected money, hired counsel, and was able to pull the place out of bankruptcy and onward and upward. And we thank him and Rich Migliorato and the whole gang, Jack Evan, for that very much. Gang, one of my favorite lines to do homeowners, and I know there's a few sitting here, and I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot with the turnover that we had this year, is you picked a great place to live. And I don't say that just because I have to. You picked a great place. This is a well-run association, starting with the management. John Carney, 30 plus years. 20 plus years. Ryan owns 30. And the whole management team is up here with us today, and it's thanks to their efforts as well that we make this happen. And these guys are all going to speak to you here in a few minutes. And if you have any questions about operations, we can talk to them or the board liaison. Thank you to all of the committees, volunteers that also make this place go around. There's so many of you. I know with the pandemic, a lot of things weren't happening, but I'm excited to see that in the rearview mirror. As I know all of you are, people are climbing the walls. It's good to see so many people here today. I think the first thing I want to do here is introduce the board of directors and the gang on the dais. John Carney, who I just mentioned, Ed Jordan, Vice President, Bob Assenheimer, Al Cuccinello, Jack Galini, Mike McGregor, Scott, and Howard Terreri, our counsel. Welcome, gang. First thing that we generally do in this meeting, Paula Whitney's here with us today, and Paula handles the scholarship fund, and we appreciate her efforts in doing so. And the scholarship fund was named after John Rashinda, whose son is here with us as well. If you guys don't mind, come on up.
First, I'd like to second Jerry's comment that this is the best community in the Poconos. It definitely is. It's a pleasure living here. Thank you all that make it happen. Okay, starting in 2006 and 2007, John Rashinda's father, came up with the idea that we should give out scholarships to the children or grandchildren of property owners here in the Walpack Lake Estates. John and I got together to put together the application itself. The board approved these $1,000 scholarships given out each year. And the first scholarship was given out in 2008. John Rashinda chaired this committee until his untimely death in February of 2014. At that time, they asked me if I would take over chairing. It's been an honor for me to do it. I thank all the people who worked with me to select the winners. And this year was a very difficult process because we had every application was marvelous and wonderful. It was very hard to come up with 4 winners out of the applications that we did receive. But it went beautifully, and I'm so happy here today. Okay, when I get out the selection process, they're not selected on grades, they're not selected on one item. They are selected on overlooking at the whole overall view of the applicant for the application, whether it be grades, whether it be their involvement in the community, their involvement in school, the time that they are willing to give of themselves to help others. And so this year, what we do, the money does not go to the student, by the way, it goes into their college fund that the college university they will be attending, and they can draw it there. My thing, I know standing here today, I know the pride I felt when my children were awarded, were recognized in their accomplishments. So today, to the parents of the child who was here today, I know how proud you must be that your child was here to receive our scholarship, and to thank everybody for what they have done to get us to this point. There are 4 winners, but we only have 1 here today. But I'm going to give you the names of all 4 winners and something about them before we start. The first is Isabella Biesfeld. She's the daughter of Sandy and Chad Biesfeld. Isabella will be attending DeSales University and majoring in medical studies and as a physician's assistant. The second is Cal Broad. He is the son of Carol and Robert Roth and the grandson of Brenda and Chris Roth. Cal will be attending Oklahoma State University and majoring in animal science. Third winner is Julie Funk. Julie is the daughter of Jessica and Michael Funk. Julie will be attending the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and majoring in biology. Now, who is here with us today, who I am so proud to announce right now, Francesca Licaradello. Come on up, Francesca. Francesca is the daughter of Donna and Thomas Licaradello. Francesca will be attending Northeastern University and majoring in behavioral neuroscience with a pre-med path. Congratulations. Thank you.
I do want to thank Paula and everybody. And everybody, and I know there's also one for BOCES. I mean, whoever came up with that idea, I believe it was one of these gentlemen. I think that's a great idea. Youth is our future. My father was very, very much adamant about starting this scholarship, and everybody that puts the time into it, I do appreciate it. My dad would be looking down and be very happy right now. So thank you very much.
Last year, the board voted to add 1 more scholarship. They're going to give out another $1,000 scholarship to anyone who is going to a vocational technology program. For 2 years, we have never had 1 person apply for that scholarship. We're going to hype it up a little bit more for next year, and hopefully somebody will apply for that. Thank you so very much.
Paula, John, thank you. Recipients, congratulations. Next thing I'd like to do is let's move to approve, or can I have a motion to approve, with possibly any corrections, the annual meeting minutes of last year? Sir.
Okay, my name is Richard Gransky, section 2, 328. I wanted to take a correction of the minutes and the part where property owners respond to questions that are asked. The whole last part, I just brought it up, I don't know how accurate or for accuracy we have to be, but I was accredited a comment as far as making vending machines over by mailboxes, and I didn't make that statement. That's the last part of the minute.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and that'll get changed. Yes, in the back.
Jerry, is that microphone available?
Right, I'm sorry. It is. What would you like to do?
I'm just saying, pass it around to anybody who wants to talk, because I couldn't hear
You know,
what you
it's
said.
interesting. The reason I stopped using it is I feel like it's not working up to par. That's all right. I'll just pass it around. Thank you. Any other corrections? Do I have a motion to approve the annual meeting minutes? Paula Whitney.
I make a motion to approve this.
Can we have a second? Peggy Costas. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, gang. Reports of officers. This year, as last, we are asking our department managers sitting here in front of us to give reports on behalf of the board of directors and the general manager. Our chief, Don Manetti, has an obligation today, so he asked if he can come up first and speak. Ed Jordan Jr. is his liaison, and Jack. So if you, as the board, can answer any questions beyond what the chief can answer, and I'm sure he can do it much better than we can. So come on up.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dominic Netti, Chief of your Public Safety Department. I'm going to be very brief. Really don't have too much to report. It's been a quiet year since January, but I am anticipating, obviously, a very busy summer this year. Our officers, since the beginning of the year, have logged 32,000 patrol miles, and we've consumed approximately 2,800 gallons of fuel. We've written 160 various citations for different offenses in the rules and regulations. We've responded to a little over 30 EMS calls, ambulance calls, and investigated over 10 incidents that were reported to our officers during our patrol hours. Moving forward into the summer, again, I'm anticipating a very busy summer. I can see the increase in traffic already, especially in golf carts and UTVs on our roads. Our officers have begun stepping up its efforts in controlling the speed and the traffic devices within our community. I ask that everybody please abide by all the traffic rules, especially, sharing the roads with walkers, joggers, people riding bicycles, and many, many golf carts. So we'll be stepping up our efforts again and trying to control speed. And our main goal this year is obviously everybody has a great season and we keep everybody safe within WLA.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions?
Hello, Section 4, 240. Chief, at that last meeting, I brought up about those light bars on the golf carts, and it was said that they were going to be removed, or the minutes from that meeting said that the board said they would be told to turn them off, but not remove them. So to me, that's just a violation of what's going to happen. That they shouldn't be allowed, because it's a huge safety issue, huge.
It is when they're on, and we have been enforced, our officers actually have been enforcing that. We've been writing citations under a section in the rules and regulations for improper lighting, because they're actually off-road lighting. And when they're mounted high up on their golf carts, they are totally blinding. They're blinding during the day, let alone blinding at night when you're coming to them. But we are enforcing that rule, and I believe the board has passed a rule where they can't have the off-light roading above the golf carts.
But isn't there a way to have them they're not allowed to even have them on it?
Ed, that's a tough rabbit hole to go down.
I understand.
We're enforcing it, you're not allowed to do it from here on out, but to tell somebody to take that off, that's tough. Hey, listen, the goal is accomplished.
I didn't get it.
The goal is accomplished. The goal of not using them, they are very dangerous. People are blinded, coming down the
Yeah,
street.
but not everybody can be around watching them all the time. I mean, I'm not making an argument with you guys, except that I think they should be. Let's see how it goes. They should be made to remove. It's just, you're gonna put them on. We were all kids.
Thank you, Ed. Anybody else? Question for the chief?
Yeah, Chief, my name is Richard Bransky, Section 2, 328. Last meeting, I brought the idea about renters allowing children to whom they rent to their parents driving the golf carts. At the meeting, reference was made that it was referred to you to find out what's going on as far as the renters. Because the renters' children, they don't get enforced as far as the golf cart is concerned. So,
You're correct.
There should be something different done as part of the golf cart to notify that it's a renter's golf cart. Maybe they're going to flag, maybe the badges that was brought up for the records will change in some fashion, have a check.
Well, as far as my department is concerned, I just had a staff meeting last week with all of my officers, and we are beginning to conduct roving stops on golf carts, especially on kids. I get calls all the time to this kid's driving a golf cart, I know he doesn't have a license, this kid's driving. There's no way we could tell unless we actually stop them and make sure they have their driver's license. And we have started to do that. And we're going to be conducting again, like we did last year, our golf cart safety checkpoints in various areas on WLE. Again, just trying to target and make sure all the kids that are driving these golf carts have a license and went through the safety course. I mean, the golf cart traffic has increased, and we're going to crack down on safety violations and careless drivers. For violations like that, I'm going to pull their license. I'm not going to tolerate it. It's getting there's too many people, again, on the roads, too many kids driving, and we want to make sure they're abiding by all the rules and staying safe. I give the driving test. I can tell you that, when these kids come take the driving test, and again, it's not the majority of the kids driving golf carts. The majority of the kids driving golf carts in here are safe and are abiding by the rules and abiding by the regulations. It's just certain few that they come to take the test, they're perfect, left turn, right turn, stop, everything. They do everything perfect, and then they get out on the roads by themselves, and they just get, it's like a new toy. And that's where the parents come in. I mean, the parents have to keep enforcing to them when they go out, be a safe driver, be cautious, be respectful, and be responsible. It's not a toy. But we're going to crack down on people that we feel are unsafe or just careless or reckless or doing reckless acts. We're going to pull their license. But as far as renters coming in and kids of the renter using the golf cart, we've stopped many of them the same way. We've cited them all. They don't have a license. They're here. We don't know who they are. They come, they rent a home, and they have access to the golf carts, and they're out driving. Unless we pull them over and stop them for a violation, there's no way we can tell.
But the bottom line, Rich, is they're on it.
Yeah.
That wasn't enthusiastic yet. Anybody else? Chief, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Hey, gang, we'll take a look around here. Take a look at this building. You may have noticed it's been renovated. And the person that led the renovations is sitting here in front of me and about to be our next speaker. 20 years. She's done a wonderful, 21 years, done a wonderful job for the community.
Good morning, everybody. As most of you have been around the community, we have quite a bit of building going on. Right now, I have 42 open permits here.
Testing.
Can you hear me now? All right, as I was saying, we have 42 open permits, 10 houses being built, and we are currently at 1,399 homes. I know at least 6 more that should be coming in at any time. There's quite a few lots out there that have been surveyed, and I haven't heard anything about them yet. So we're going to be having quite a few homes coming in. There's 2 other things I just wanted to touch on. One is the trees. We are having an issue now with the ash trees. It has the emerald ash borer going on. And I kind of did a little bit of reading up on this, and it's a bug that actually penetrates the bark, lays its larva, and it's the larva that actually is decomposing the inside of the tree. And within 3 to 4 years, these trees are done. If you see trees where the bark is coming off, and you see piles of wood, and I'm not saying little, like big pieces of bark coming off and wood, it's getting to be serious and they should be removed. We are kind of starting to monitor the community. We're in the process of going around and starting to address these issues. So I just wanted everybody to be aware and take a look at your trees. So hitting on that. The next issue I wanted to touch on was ditches and culverts. Since we had this really heavy rain this past week, we've seen if you do not clean out your culverts, there will be damage to people's properties and to our roads. So if everybody can just kind of be aware and clear out your culvert pipes, very much appreciated, I'm sure, by maintenance. So those are the only things I really needed to touch on today and let you know where our building status is. So,
Thank you.
Guys, questions for Fran? Thank you, Fran.
you're welcome.
Very much appreciated. Next is our office manager, and in the absence of the general manager, our assistant general manager, Kathy Selene. Kathy, come on up.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Yeah, my mouth is big enough. So one of the things I want to touch on first is just a couple little things we're going to go today. But the first thing I want to let everybody know is thank you for bearing with us through this past year and a half with COVID. The office has been through quite a lot of changes on what we are allowing in and out. And right now we're at the point that it's at the end of June. We are still requiring everybody to wear a mask when they come in, whether you have been vaccinated or not. We just feel more comfortable in the office ourselves. 5 of us out of 8 this past January did come down with COVID. So we're just kind of keeping that safety going a little bit longer till the end of June. So please bear with us, and I thank you all for being gracious this entire time. As you'll see, Debbie is no longer with us in the office, Debbie Devine. She has retired. No longer we hired last October. She took Debbie's position. We did just hire a new person for Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and she'll be starting next week. And we also have a summertime position person, Jen Benson. So Jennifer Aram will be starting this week, and Jen Benson is in there now for helping us out for days off and a couple hours here and there for phones. We have definitely been busier. We are still also continuing our call ahead, so for anybody, we found that this is working very well. Anybody wants to pick up a guest pass or get car stickers or anything like that, absolutely feel free to call ahead, email us. We can have everything available in the foyer. You can pick it up there without even having to come into the office. During the summer, we are expecting to see some larger lines. We are getting busier, as Dom has said, and this will help alleviate the wait in the office and the wait on lines. You can just go pick up your passes or whatever you need and scoot right out. Same thing with building permits. Fran can issue them and leave them outside for you to pick up. Some numbers for you. In 2020, we ordered 9,000 amenity badges and needed to order 500 more. This year, we increased that number of badges, and we will start giving them out on July 7th. And we are expecting those numbers to go up as well. Some more numbers for you. We ordered this year so far 1,100 flags for both golf carts and UTVs. And again, as Don said, it's increasing. We are now at about just over 400 flags that we've given out already since April only. So these numbers are going to be going up. Guest passes are no different. On average, this Memorial Day weekend, since this Memorial Day weekend, we've handed out approximately 60 to 70 guest passes per week, and about 90 to 100 on the weekends alone. And that's not even including a holiday weekend. So this is a significant increase, and with this type of an increase already now, we are expecting and gearing up for a really busy summer this year. Last year, we started working on payments in the office by credit card, and that has been implemented, and we have been utilizing it. We are now taking payments through credit card, debit card in the office, as well as Apple Pay. So if you have Apple Pay on your watch, on your phone, you can tap it and you can make a payment, that's fine. The office is not charging a 4%, however the company is. So please be aware that when you do pay by credit card or Apple Pay, there is a 4% charge that the company is charging. So that goes directly to them. Notices. As always, we are still putting notices up as often as we can and as quick as we can. But again, with everything changing, sometimes we may put a notice up and within a couple of days it changes again. So please try to check all the venues. You can call the office. We will let you know, but it's a lot easier if you can just check your Facebook page, you can check the internet, the TV channel 920. We also have a new WLE app that's been implemented. So if you download the app, you'll get alerts through there. You'll also get notices on the news tab of that. Again, policy changes throughout the year. We do have them, so sometimes you may come in one day and we're doing things one way, and you come in 2 or 3 days later and that's changed again. Please bear with us. We're trying to make it convenient for you as well as us. So changes can happen often. With that said, that's really all I have, with the exception of saying it is our 50th anniversary this year, and we are gearing up to do something fun this year, and I'm sure Derek's going to touch on that, so I'll leave that to him for the spotlight. But in the meantime, does anybody have any questions? Yes?
My name is Gary Graham, section 7, 165. My son has a new car, yes, my son has a new car, and in regards, I noticed that you have to have a copy of the registration to get, to give a sticker and whatever in the office or whatever. Do you take a copy, or it has to be the actual?
No, it can be a copy. If you can show me a copy on your phone a picture of it, we accept that, absolutely. We just need to see something that it is from an actual registration so we can verify ownership of the vehicle.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions? No? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
You got it. All right, gang. Next, I'm going to introduce Brian Stein. Brian is the maintenance supervisor, or is an assistant supervisor. If you take a look around, boy, they've done one heck of a job.
Morning, everyone. Maintenance had a hectic winter, especially February, where it seemed to never stop snowing. Between the snow, we built an all-new walkway between A, A1, and B, making it 6 feet wide for easier walking. We also built a new D-dock with fingers. New bathroom dividers were installed both outdoor buildings, Beaver Lodge, and the adult lodge. We also had a 50-year metal roof installed on the underpass. The marina was installed as soon as weather permitted and opened on May 7th. Both beaches will be getting a fresh load of sand this year. We will also be adding an extra horseshoe pit above rock ledge, as well as repainting the shuffleboard course. I hope everyone enjoys everything the community has to offer this summer. Be safe and enjoy.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Good job, Brian. Thank you. Very, very good. Next up, very familiar face, does a heck of a job. Your water runs because of him, Brian Chan.
Morning, everybody. Well, last couple of reports were mentioning about numbers. Well, they have definitely been going up. We've seen an increase of people attending their homes and some are staying here, which has affected the sewer treatment plant and the water system, creating a little bit more busy time for us. The sewer treatment plant is running well. The flows are up due to the higher number of people, and some of it is due to infiltration, which is because of the wet spring we had. Control upgrades are scheduled to be done at Pump Station 3 and Pump Station 6. We're waiting for material to come in for the contractor to complete that job. We've been pulling manholes and searching for infiltration. This is when groundwater gets into the sewer system and makes its way to the treatment plant, and it's unnecessary to treat that water. So we're trying to find key areas that need to be repaired so we can stop and prevent that water from getting in there. We have a new camera system, which is extremely beneficial and helpful in us finding these areas. Moving on to the water system, again, we talked about flows being higher. They are higher. Majority because of more people being present, and there also are water leaks, which unfortunately continuously occur. We find them and fix them. We flushed water mains this spring. I'm sure some of you seen some reflection of that, but it was very successful. And finding that us doing it twice a year has minimized and increased or decreased the time that it takes for us to get that accomplished. Both Indian Drive and Ski Bluff water towers were filled and inspected. We're waiting for a report. They inspect the inside and outside. The way that it's done on the inside is they have like a submarine camera that they go in and they check all the seams and look for any bad areas that need to be repaired and replaced. So we'll see what those reports generate and we'll address those as needed. Plans for Fawn Hill well chlorine reduction are in place. We received the plans finally that we can get out to contractors to get some bids and prices. What this is going to do is it's going to lower the mandated chlorine residual, which is 1.55 parts per million right now, and we're going to be able to drop it down 3 times to a 0.49, which will be a reflection in the taste and odor, unfortunately, that chlorine gives when it comes out into the system. Having a lower residual leave the well house allows the system to have less of a reflection of the chlorine. The Water and Sewer Department continues to make sure that all state and federal regulations are being met. My staff, we increased by one. We actually had two, unfortunately, I lost one, so we're trying to get our staff back up, but we're all very busy making sure that the water and sewer system continues to run appropriately. And then finally, I would like to just say a special thanks to my staff. Chuck the Fence Maker, Artie Guerrera, Marge Kenny, James Stein. Their hard work and commitment is what makes the department special and what it is. So I'd like to say a big thank you to them, because they're not here, they don't get recognized, but I want all of you to recognize that all of us together make it happen. With that being said, is there any questions?
I'll take that as a no. All right, everyone. The treasurer of the board of directors, Greg Pollock, could not be here with us today. He had a prior commitment, and his nephew is graduating, and it's an understandable, excusable absence. In place of him, the general manager, myself, or the board, and we have Lorraine Davidoff, our controller, with us here today. So, and as well, we have Scott from Riley. And did you want to say a few words? Oh, we got Bruce too. Where's Bruce?
John said, my name is Scott Miller. I'm one of the shareholders of Riley & Company. We're the CPA firm that, actually I used to say auditor, but we did not audit your financial statements this year. The board elected to have us do a review, which is a little bit less in scope than an audit. But again, during our review, we did not find anything that, we did not find any issues that we would have to report. On the cash-wise, the association is relatively, well-funded. You have about $4 million in cash and cash equivalents as of December 31st. You still have $300,000 of investments, and that's consistent with where it was last year. On the liability side, the assessments collected in advance actually went down, which means that even though the association still had essentially the same amount of cash, there was about $200,000 worth of dues that weren't collected in advance from last year that were. So overall, it means the association is in a little bit stronger of a cash position for at the end of December 2020 versus where they were at December of 2019. And that kind of is consistent with what we see on most of our associations. Everybody in the COVID impacted not being able to operate. A lot of things caused some of the costs to go down. A lot of resales and building permits and things like that across all the communities that we serve, and some of the people that spoke here earlier mentioned that's also going on here in WLE. Overall, from an equity standpoint, so there's like $3.3 million in the reserve funds, which is really good. You have over $7 million worth of assets that need to be replaced on a periodic basis, so you have about half of that in there. And essentially, your reserve study, your annual assessment of $275 is this year. It is consistent, or maybe a little bit below what your reserve study calls for. Your reserve study calls for, I think, $290 for fiscal 2022. So you're relatively close to, having that be fully funded, which is really the ultimate goal. Is that reserves are kind of like a savings account, a Christmas bucket. You put a little bit of money in each week, and you need to replace the roof, the money's there. So that's really important, and it really helps keep the value of your properties, and keeps the maintenance up, and without having to have special assessments to pay for things. On an operating side, the association ended the year with $878,000 worth of member surplus, which is just a little bit over 3 months worth of annual assessments, which is really good, and that kind of goes along with what we've been saying for a long time, and what financial planners tell you as individuals, that everybody really should have between 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, in cash and saved up for rainy days. So the association is within that, that realm. As far as, things, the only thing that you have, consideration of is really the operating assessment, is really a little bit low compared to what your operating expenses are on an annual basis, which is, shown in your statement of revenue and expenses. The association has asked for a number of recent years had a deficit of operating revenue over expenses, which means you spent a little bit more money operating than you did that you brought in. But so far, the association's cash mission has again maintained strong finances. That, from our standpoint, that's really the key points of what we have.
You all set? Good. Guys, any questions? Finance related, dues, collections. Yeah, I think we're on a good path, and we have a lot of people to thank for that. And we joked about Bruce Phillips; he's one of them. Many treasurers, the general manager, being steadfast, and of course the board of directors and the volunteers, Dan Braun, the finance people. The association's in a good financial position because of them and their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to let Howard Terreri, our counsel, say a few words.
A few words?
A few words.
From a lawyer? Mr. Chairman, members of the board of directors, members of the association, Mr. Connie, staff, we always welcome the opportunity to come up to visit the community, what a beautiful community you have, and provide our legal report for the association members. And the report is generally brief. By way of background, I want to let you know that you're always in good hands because we've been representing the association for, I've been coming up here well past 20 years, I think close to 30 years for my firm from way back. I know there was going to be a little report about the history of the association in commemoration of 50 years in its existence, I believe. And so we've been here quite a bit, and we know quite a bit of the legal history. I'm not going to bore anybody with the legal history, of course, because we'll need a couple of hours for that. And I was surprised, I noticed when I came in to the clubhouse here, that it was all completely new, and then I discovered you had a flood. These are the types of things that these types of communities are like any municipality faces, and the responsibilities are significant. And you should be thankful that you've got competent and continuous management to handle these situations, as well as the board of directors are very well versed in business and to make the proper decisions on behalf of the members, the community. With that said, let me just report that the legal matters primarily consist of typical or routine consultations with the management, maybe dealing with collection matters that come up, and other matters that might relate to the real estate, and maybe people doing things when they shouldn't be doing them in the community, and what can be done, and so forth. But this is customary and routine, and it's our input is generally in the form of legal advice. There is one outstanding case, it can be considered a nuisance case. A former member, an investor, real estate investor, trying to get back his money in some way that he paid. That should be coming to a conclusion this year, I suspect. Other than that, that's the extent of the legal matters, and I wish I could be more detailed in providing the information about legal matters, but generally we can. It's typically we consider it confidential, and we certainly don't want to educate our enemies out there. With that said,
Thank you, Howard.
I thank you.
I know it wasn't brought up, but it gets asked of the board and the office and myself very often, and I'm going to piggyback on Howard a little since he's sitting here now. It gets asked often, how do we control renters? And I am the liaison to Wapak Township. This association has a very good relationship with them. They are working on something, and when I say renters, I mean vacation renters. I know a lot of us have experienced nuisance vacation renters. Now, there are a lot of good renters as well. You guys know we have a 2-year moratorium in here. You buy your home, you cannot rent it out for 2 years. But beyond that, people that do own investment properties in here, beyond that 2 years, VRBO, Airbnb, it's super popular these days, and there have been some struggles with it. The township is working on something. It's still in the works. I don't know what the final outcome of that is going to be because we talked about this at breakfast a little. It's very difficult to enforce it. That's the problem. But Howard, any opinion on that?
It's definitely difficult.
Yeah, very difficult to enforce it. Thank you, Howard. Next up, we're going to let John Carney, our general manager of over 30 years, say a few words.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank Howard and Scott for giving their time to come over here on Saturday morning and relay their reports. It's very, both of them have been, solid people for us, steering us in the right direction. One thing that Scott didn't mention, which is very important, is that with our tax status, we do not pay income tax. We pay sales tax on things that we purchase, but we're not paying income tax. We're one of the very few communities in northeast Pennsylvania, probably even Pennsylvania, maybe even the country, that has this tax status. And Scott keeps us on the straight and narrow of abiding by the accounting rules that we need to do to keep this status. And one of them is every year you vote on for that reserve money, for the part of your dues to go into the reserve fund, to fund our assets, and with the replacement fund that Bruce has been doing for quite a few years now. That's all part of it. We have $5 million worth of assets and replacement of $7 million of assets when they come due with inflation to replace these assets. So it's very important. So I thank both of them for coming up this morning. And I thank this front row here, except for Ed, your the department heads. The reports are a little bit different now. I love the idea with the department heads coming, giving their own reports. They were all very anxious to get here.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it's kind of fun. I like seeing them nervous. So no, I'll tell you right now, we have some of the best staffing ever. I thank Lorraine and Donna, for their time that they're giving, and things are, as Jerry mentioned, going very well. The community looks good. What's very annoying is, how nice the place can look, and all it takes is a 40-minute rain of 3-some inches of rain in that amount of time. Just destroy things. If I have everybody's throwing numbers around, let me see if I can remember some numbers from classes of, they talk about like a 100-year storm, which we seem to get every year. Calculations of a 100-year storm is like 6 to 7 inches of rain in a 24-hour period of time. I haven't done the math of what 3+ inches of rain in 40 minutes is. It must be like a 1,000-year storm, I don't know. Fran touched on with the culverts and the drainage ditches, which when property owners help us out with that, it's a huge help for us. There's no doubt about it. But look, we still need to come up with another plan. For the reason being, you'll clean your culvert pipe out, you're going to clean your ditch out, but who's saying the person up above you is cleaning theirs out? And water goes downhill. If we can make it go uphill, I could avoid a lot of these problems. But water's going to come downhill. And the thing is, it's not just the homeowners. There's still lots. And these property owners aren't coming up here to come up to clean their ditches. Some of them never really, I don't know why they have the property, that's a whole different story. They're not coming up to clean their leaves. So, you know, we've talked about it before. I feel we still need to come up with a program. Look, it may end up costing everybody a little bit more money, but in the long run, it's going to save money. It really is. Okay, my report.
Can't you find the people, just like if you have your sidewalk, you don't take care of your sidewalk, are you fined in some of the municipalities?
You could be, but I don't know. And we still find it difficult.
I'm just offering that.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I think I really got off on a tangent here. That wasn't even part of my report, but my report has changed a little bit since the department heads have been coming, this is the second year now, because that was really my report. And then to remind me, save your reports. I was supposed to be doing the minutes, and I'm doing a terrible job, and I'll take the reports. But something that I'm going to do a little bit different. I hope this works out as good as when it was in my mind I was going to work out. Being it's the 50th anniversary, I like to touch on a little bit of history of the estates. For one reason being, I find it very interesting. And the other thing is we have a lot of new property owners here now, and I'm going to bet they're not aware of how the community started. Jerry mentioned the bump in the road in the 70s. And I'm hoping this works out too, because I know we have some members here that lived through these periods of time. Mr. Jordan, I saw Paul Cuskley, Rich Migrato, which I don't know.
Rich Walker, he's here.
Oh, great, that's good. And even Jack Vedder. So we have some people that lived through this. So my whole idea of this was that I'm going to get things started, and I'm hoping everybody enjoys this, that if you think of something or you want to elaborate on something that I'm bringing up, which I wasn't here, I'm reading this in notes, and Joy Pfeiffer was great with keeping some different history through the minutes and stuff like that. So if anyone has anything to interject, don't wait till I'm done. Raise your hand, and look, I'm doing a lousy job with the minutes anyway, so it's not going to matter. I'm going to tell you, you want to refer to the video. And so I'm hoping we can make this a little fun. Eileen McGregor for the 50th, sometime through maybe when I'm finished or whatever, she's made cupcakes. We have coffee, some drinks. If anybody drops anything on the carpet, you will be kindly escorted out. So let me get started. I don't want this to be like a history class. With doing this, I'm going to have to read some of this word for word because there was just no way I was going to be able to remember. But let me just kind of give you a little bit of idea. The development of the estates was initiated in 1971, hence 2021, 50 years, by a joint venture comprised of Inter-American Catholic Charities and Pocono Dell Company. This was the developer. Originally, it consisted of 925 acres, subdivided in 7 sections with a total of 2,388 lots. I say that number like that for the reason being, anyone that would come in now would not be thinking of 7 sections. You're thinking of the 5 sections and then partially of a section 7. But originally it was, this development was going to be 7 different sections with that amount of lots. Now this is I always find quite interesting. You think about Rockledge Pool, the Adult Lodge, and the stable. Now when a place like this is subdivided, you have a developer coming in and they're looking to purchase as much land as they want to purchase to be able to do what they're looking to do. Being here, the hideout. I was more familiar with the hideout starting out like the estates did. Hideout basically started out around the same time. The developer came in like 69, started selling lots, 71, pretty much the same time. So I was at the hideout. Well, not that, but I'm a little bit more familiar with that concept, which I got to believe for most of the communities around it's the same concept. They come in, they look to purchase land, and then start developing. That's why they might buy one section first, start selling properties, while they buy another section, and it goes on and on like that. But where the Adult Lodges, stables, even the pool itself, that was land owned by Robert Gonzalez. Now, Mr. Gonzalez owned that property as his own property for himself, his family, and guests, which was then bought from him by the developer to incorporate that as part of WLE. So at that time, the Adult Lodge had two bowling alleys, or 2 lanes, in there. They since then have been removed, mostly because of the upkeep to try to keep that going. But so to me, it's very interesting because the property owner that's living in now, they see these facilities, and that was already here. That was built well before the association became Wallenbach Lake Estates. And now the Rock Ledge Pool actually this is what I thought from Jack Better. Rock Ledge Pool was probably only half that deep. I believe Jack 4 feet deep or something. And then once the community came in, it was the association, they built those walls up to bring it up to what 9 feet or whatever. But I always kind of find that very interesting that he had the pool, it had the waterfalls. I used the waterfalls cascaded over the rocks right into the pool. By the time the association purchased that, it had that DEP put a kibosh to that. They don't want water running into the pool with the minerals, chemicals, and everything else. Okay, now some of this stuff that I'm going to say now might sound a little dry, but it's the build up. Basically, kind of what happened then, in the mid-70s. But in 1971, the developer started selling lots, promising amenity and common areas to those who purchased property. Potential buyers were told that the amenities and common areas were to be built by the buyer's funds for when they bought the property. From when property was bought, the money was reserved. Out of each dollar, there was a certain amount of cents that was reserved, for the sewer treatment plant, for different common areas. So the purchase of those properties was paying for the amenities to be built. Telling the purchase of property with the intention to see a completed community. Offering statements in the HUD disclosure statements declare that the amenities and common areas were to be conveyed to the association sometime later, which that's normal practice. In the beginning, it's developer controlled, developer run, and then eventually it'll be turned over to the POA, which in the HUD report that was mentioned, the date and year mentioned was December of 1976 is when the control from the developer was then to go to the POA, which really happened in 1977 is the actual date. The first meeting of the corporation was held February 20th, 1973, 2 o'clock in Milford, Pennsylvania. That's over in Pike County. That's where the developer was running his office out of at that time. And now this is when the article of the corporations were adopted. And at this meeting, the directors were nominated to hold office made up of representatives of both the developer and the POA. So though sales and property owners started purchasing in 1971, the articles of incorporation were actually done in 1973. But we use 1971 as our anniversary date. Homes, lots were selling, property owners were building houses, and the association was serving the members of the Property Owners Association. 1972 was a very active year. Many of the amenities were starting to take shape. Docks were being added to the existing 3 docks. I was like, oh, yeah, now we're 10 docks, 350 slips. The campgrounds were completed by this time, as was the beach at Deer Lake. Materials were being ordered for Beaver Lodge and the pool at Beaver Lodge. The plans for this building here, the main clubhouse, were being drawn and construction was planned for the fall of 1972. The sewer treatment plant was designed and approved, and approval was expected in 1973. In 1973, work started on both sewer and water system in Section 1, and by the end of 1974, Sections 1 and 2 were tied both in water and sewer. Section 3 by the summer of 1975. Now, at that time, Sections 4, 5, 6 and 7 were still in planning stages. That was, early to mid-70s. Other amenity areas and years. Main clubhouse with the indoor pool area now known as the U-Dock area, 1974, that was completed. The ski slope was completed in 1975, and the introduction of badges of bumper stickers far back as 1975. And we still can't get some people to put bumper stickers. Okay, this is where, to me anyway, it starts getting interesting. In 1975 is when a group of owners became aware that the developer was experiencing financial difficulties. This group of property owners called for a meeting of the members to make them aware of the information that they had received. The members formed their own board, which was called the governing board, and then was known as the advisory board, which now we're getting to a period of time where people will start to remember. The advisory board ran in conjunction with the board of directors. Those meetings, I think, were on Sunday morning, like around 11 o'clock, and they would have representatives of the advisory board that would meet, the board of directors to bring any questions that were brought up at the advisory board to the board of directors, and for them to reply back to for the next advisory board meeting. Which the advisory board, when does anybody remember when that was? Like what, 5-6 years ago? Maybe longer than that now. The time is flying when you're having fun. I realize that, but when was that?
2015, if I recall right.
2015. Okay, and basically. The reason for that was we started holding open sessions. Before the board of directors meetings were always closed, and that's why there was an advisory board for that reason. But then once we started holding the open sessions, and in today's society with social media, everybody wants an answer immediately. So you can imagine, okay, you've got an advisory board meeting, then the question goes to the board at their next meeting, and the answer goes to the advisory board at their meeting. By then it's history. Everybody knows the answer, or already somebody's made up an answer, one or the other. So kind of did away with the advisory board at that time, opened up the board meetings, and that was the reason for that. But they they were involved for quite a while. Okay, though the developer always denied any financial difficulties, it finally became aware that the developer was falling behind on their bills. And at that time, the association, the POA association, did not have any control of the money at that time. It was all for the developer. The association sent letters to all property owners explaining the situation and asking for this is amazing, a $25 donation so an attorney could be retained to find out the status of the developer. And I do remember with Joy Pfeiffer talking about this, and the response was absolutely amazing. So people sending their money, they were able to retain an attorney to start finding out just what the situation was. Now this is where I'm hoping like maybe Ed Jordan can chime in or Jack Vetter, because in 1976 the developer he abandoned completion of this association. The amenities were built or being built, and he just decided that's it. He basically just packed up and left. Now, when he left, the one thing that he left and didn't do, the amenities weren't deeded over to the POA. So they were still in control, with the developer. The developer defaulted on the mortgage, and then on all the lots that he owned, the bank was foreclosing on the rest of the properties, which was basically all of Section 6 and a portion of 7. And that's why we have the sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is no 6, and partially 7. I think I'm going to kind of go off from this because this part I do know. And then this is what happened was with the foreclosure. There was the lawsuit with the mortgage company that foreclosed on. That was Finance America. So that was just a long, drawn-out procedure at that time, which that's something that Howard referred to, that he wasn't going to get all about with that because that would take a whole other meeting. But to give the Reader's Digest version, that was a period of time where then the property owners did get they got deeds for the common areas, the amenities, and they took over. But up until that time, they spent a lot of money, just maintaining the properties that they had. All sewer and water lines were not run yet. And this is where I'll have to get back to what I wrote. So on average, at the time from 1971 to 1975, the amenity and common areas were completed in the core area, except that the sewer and water system were only 65% completed, and the roads and amenity and the common areas were not completed in Section 6 and a portion of Section 7, basically what I said. Okay, the association spent a lot of money to maintain amenity and common area, and finally litigation hiring our present legal counsel, which was Howard referred to. That was Levy and Priate at that time. John Brooks Randall was doing most of the work at that time. Then it went through to Greg Germain, and then finally now down to Howard. So that was 1983. So it took to 83 to obtain title to amenity and common areas. So before that, I'm talking about like times into the mid and later 70s. That's the period of time it took finally for the association to be able to have these amenity and common areas that was needed to it. During the period of time, there were many property owners who volunteered their time to maintain facilities, with docks in and out, lend their professional expertise to save the association money, steer the community in the right direction. It was not easy. There was only enough money barely to maintain existing amenities without really improving on roads and such as that. And some volunteers, Jack Vedder, Mr. Jordan, Rich Mayrado, Jack Galini, these were people that all lived through it. That's pretty much my report. Now, I went through a lot of material, and to kind of sum this up, of the close-knitness of the community, you have to remember now, this community was lacking the funds. People have bought property, bought houses. The developer basically packed up, and people are there like, what do we do? We just invested all this money. The sewer lines weren't ran to all the roads yet. People could build a house. From stories that I hear from George Pfeiffer, I guess there was some type of holding tanks, and there was a place that I forget where, there was an area that they need to go to get drinking water. They didn't have it at their houses. She called it glorified camping. So it had to be a very interesting time, that's for sure. But I think this kind of sums it up from a report that I found, A Brief History of Long Callback Lake Estates. There was a tremendous amount of work done by the property owners to keep WLE active. Recreation was responsible for having property owners work together and have various parties and games. Though the tough times came the fun times. As a community, we stuck together and fought all the problems that faced us. Finance America foreclosed on the developer. Everything was closed down, but that didn't stop the property owners who cared. Blocks were removed, and the members got together and kept up the amenities by giving their time and, yes, sometimes even money. As you can see today, we have a wonderful community which is constantly growing. We can thank the pioneers of WLE for making this all possible. I don't see a better way to do it. Thank you very much. Enjoyed the cupcakes. Years ago, it was hot dogs. Question back there.
John, wonderful synopsis. Any chance that you could maybe put it together into it is on the website. Okay. Just so that we could preserve it and for some of us to go back and look at it and sort of see what you were talking about.
Definitely. I got started with this. I do find this very interesting. I want to do more work on it, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want to put this all together and have something. I just want to make sure I'm accurate, talk to some different property owners, about what I'm writing, to see what, they say about it. But yes, we definitely want to put something together.
We've been coming for like 30 years, and this place is so wonderful. And I think for the new people coming in, it would be so wonderful for them to see the history, to know what a special place this is, that they're not coming into something that, we're very close, all of us. We're like 3 inches
exact thought. The reason I do it, I came here in 1989, and the difference that I see right now from 89 to today with the buildings, roads, and everything else. And I think it's hard for people that have bought in the last, well, I'll use 5, 10, up to 20 years ago. I think it's hard for them to imagine. I really do. And that was my main reason for doing it. Yes, Paul.
John, wasn't there a DVD put together from his anniversary that Max Watt distributed to us?
Yes.
That is available, recorded, that
Yes.
that gave us the history of W.
Paul, John, Paul, I was just talking to Kathy Slaney about that, and actually it had a lot of interviews, and that's from the 40th anniversary.
Yes.
Kathy's going to make some copies of that and offer it for sale. You know, John had mentioned about a couple stories, and oh, Jack, go ahead.
Just two things. If you're interested in reading that history like John just gave us, which was very nice and very good, Kathy has something on the internet where you can read the minutes that are in all the programs from 1 to 100, I believe it is.
It's the 100th issue.
Yes. And if you read that, it takes a long time to read it, but it's very interesting and it tells the story pretty much of what happened. You can actually copy it. I did and made a book out of it. It's very interesting reading for those of you who are interested in it. And the second thing is, John, you remember last annual meeting I complained about my dogs being so old they had my daughter's initial on it?
Yeah.
Now that I got my new dogs, can I put her initials back on it?
We'll talk after the meeting, Jack.
Thank you.
There you go.
Oh, here. Is that?
Sorry, gang. I'm going to forget my notes here. You know, just a quick story I want to tell you, and they piggyback off each other. There are still a lot of original property owners in here, and some of you that I may not even know. Jack and Terry Vetter, the Cuspleys, Jack Galini, the Jordans, of course, Rich Migliorato, I saw walk in. It's an interesting story years ago, and Jack Galini, who's done a heck of a lot of things in here, been on the board many, many times, very involved in recreation. I believe to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, the longest full-time resident in here. Full-time, longest full-time. So anyway, he says to me, you'd be amazed at what, you know, back in the old days when they first came here, the old days, you know, the original times in the 70s, you know, Jack Vetter took his time, along with many others, to put the docks in. The docks of which are now a part of the biggest marina on the lake. You know, a beautiful facility.
The biggest. We are the biggest.
The biggest on the lake and a beautiful facility. And then, you know, jumping over to Jack Vetter has told me through the years, he said, back in the 70s when we were coming up here camping and before we built our house, he says, I used to send money to Ed Jordan, and I just hoped he did the right thing, and apparently he did. So that's you know, my addition to what John said. Great synopsis of the history. It is on the website. Kathy Slaney mentioned to me earlier she's going to make a copy of the DVD for the 40th anniversary, where Max Watkins also spoke a little bit. Very, very, very awesome. We're done with the board of directors, unfinished or ongoing business. Let me grab my book here. Actually, I don't even really need to grab that. The board of directors has a list of unfinished business. And really right now the only thing on there is Rock Ledge Pool, which I'm pretty proud to say is almost finished. There's a little bit of landscape up top. We feel like it came out rock solid, awesome place, beautiful facility. I hope you all feel the same. I think it's fair enough that we can remove that from unfinished business. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything to add about unfinished or ongoing business from the floor? Okay. Thank you, guys. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dan Yak, chairperson of the election committee, for the results of both resolutions proposed this year as well as director's election results. Oh, you know what, I'm sorry. If you have not voted on the resolutions and you have that with you, please feel free to turn that in now. Anybody not get a chance to turn that in? Rich, you should remind me.
I forgot you, it's just a short memory.
No, that's okay. You know, the first thing I want to do before we read the results, of the election is I want to take the time to thank my fellow directors, the new directors and the candidates that ran for board election. And one thing I want to say, I don't know if Ben is here, but I know Jamie is here. I had the pleasure of meeting her in the parking lot. Jamie, I apologize. Years ago, it always was announced today at the meeting, and then a couple years ago, people were so anxious they posted on the door when they're done in the evening. And I apologize that you did not know when I walked in with you the results of the election. And we're going to read it off now. Dan, would you like me to read it, or would you like Okay. And I'll do that. All right, everybody. And again, thank you very much for everybody that participated in the election. It takes a little bit of everybody to make this place go around. As far as the Board of Directors election results, Rebecca Assenheimer, 160, Gino Delasty, 174, Ed Jordan Jr., 300, Ben Robinson, 41, Jamie Toth, 89, Kathleen Maines, 177, Michael McGregor, 219. Thank you all for running, and very much appreciated. Congratulations. I think at this time we'll swear them in while we're waiting for the results of the allocation. Where is it, John? I'm sorry, Ed? Yeah. What were the total votes this year, Dan Rich? 433. So with new directors and elections, there's also going to be an outgoing person as well. Bob Assenheimer has taken his time and volunteered to serve us for the last 6 years, 2 terms. A big thank you to him, everybody. Bob, on behalf of the Board of Directors and the Homeowners Association. Okay.
Come on, Dan.
You don't have to come and show you. Right here. Thank you, Bob. Paula, thank you very much. You want a break? You are. Thank you. Dan, results of the Resolution 1, everybody, total votes for capital reserve allocation, which is a phenomenal thing, and it's part of the reason why we are in such great financial shape. 282 for and 17 against. For Resolution 2, but that's okay. Term limits, 216 for and 85 against. Thanks everybody for taking your time to vote. We appreciate it. And can we please bring up Kathleen Maines, Ed Jordan Jr., and Mike McGregor. All right, everybody. I'm going to officially swear these guys in as new directors. Please repeat after me, and we'll do it all together if that's okay. I do solemnly swear as a member of the Board of Directors to uphold and abide by the Charter, bylaws, rules, and regulations of Wallenpaupack Lake Estates to the best interests of the Property Owners Association, so help me God. Thank you, guys. Congratulations. Paul was looking at your picture. Thank you, Paul. No. Come on, Jim. I'm not new here, right? I'm a lame duck. Thank you, Paul. And again, Jamie, thank you. Ben's not here. Rebecca, thank you for taking the time. Okay, next on the agenda, everybody, honor roll. Honor roll was created many, many years ago. It's a tough road to traverse because there are so many people deserving of high honors for their volunteerism and everything they've done. So to pick a few is a very difficult task. We try to get one each year. Dan Braun is here with us today, past board member. He has been handling this for us since the get-go. He does the research on it. I'm going to bring Dan up, but before I turn the meeting over to Dan, he's going to talk a little bit about Henry Cowan, who was an original property owner, I believe, and passed away a few years back, but was involved in so many different committees and one of the longest running committee members. And a friend of ours and a personal friend of mine, Paul Custley, is here with us. A gentleman who devoted so much time to this. So Paul, please will you raise your hand. Devoted so much time. One of the longest running board members in history. And a heck of a good guy as well. We thank you. And I'm going to let Dan say a few words.
I'm presuming that everyone can hear me. I'll put my man voice on. Actually, in the spring of 2016, the then Board of Directors approved and authorized the establishment of an honor roll, in part because we were running out of amenities to acknowledge a name around the community, and we concluded with input from Paul Whitney that the right thing to do was to provide recognition to those in our community who deserved a great deal of recognition. And in 2016, in that spring, I was the secretary of the board of directors, and so I touched it, and in essence, I got drafted for the second time in my life. And I've been doing this function ever since. I've had a little bit of assistance in the early years, and in more recent years, the burden has fallen largely on my shoulders to do the research. Some of you probably recognize the predilection that I have to researching history. And going into the history of WLE, and thanks to John, I don't have to repeat a whole lot today, but there were a lot of original property owners and very early property owners that did a great deal to make this community what it is today. You will also notice when you walk in the doors here that a few years ago we put up some photos just to show you each one new property owners what this place looked like in its early days and how it's evolved over time. Additionally, there are some mementos, those of you that might not be aware, there are some mementos in a display case in the back of the room that go to the very early days of our community. Inducted onto the honor roll board last year, 2020, was Henry Cowan, as Jerry mentioned. Henry was initially involved in the advisory board. In 1981, he was named the secretary of the advisory board. Also in 1981, for the very first time, Henry was appointed to and conducted the first audit of the Recreation Committee's books. And those of you that were early on probably recognize that it was a very small community and everybody trusted everybody, but by that point in time there were sufficient property owners that, hey, we had to be accountable for our finances. Henry was involved in that. In November of 1982, Henry suggested to the board of directors that the advisory board make available someone to independently count the results of elections. And of course now we have that very function conducted that way, and it was Henry's doing that caused that to come about in 1982. In 1985, Henry suggested the format for and the envelopes that went into the election process with the ballots, etc. He served on the advisory board as its secretary and produced 191 sets of minutes during the course of 26 years that he also served as the election committee chairperson. And those of you in the recreation arena remember that probably up until about, I'm guessing now, about 15 years ago, Henry was the bingo caller for many, many, many years of recreation-sponsored bingo right here in the big clubhouse. Now, Henry was a very talented musician. He was a trumpeter, and I wish that he would be around these days because I can always use a trumpeter whenever I do a ceremony over at our memorial. And with this synopsis, the board approved last year Henry Cowan to go onto the honor roll board. Now this year, already acknowledged, Paul Cuskley. Paul and his lovely wife became property owners in 1973. They built their home in 1976 and they moved in 1977. Now, Paul was involved early on in the advisory board and served as, in many capacities on the advisory board up until 1989. In 1989, he was elected to the board of directors. And he served 2 years as the board's secretary. While he was the board secretary, he drafted the memorandum for the property owners to vote on the replacement of the sewer plant. And this was in 1991. Later in 1991, he was elected to be the board of directors vice president, and he served a total time on the board of directors of 6 years. During his last term on the board of directors, he was the one that introduced the concept of a 401k or an employee retirement benefit. So in the front row, you could be thankful to Paul for that. Now, Paul has been a personal friend and an advisor for me as well. Many of you know that I served many years as the treasurer here at WLE as well. And the very first month that I was the treasurer of WLE, Paul came over to my house and advised me on a whole lot of things that he saw from his time on the board of directors that were possible cost-saving kind of things that could be implemented here in the community that would reduce our recurring expenses. Paul, you might remember also that while I was treasurer, Paul came to me and did essentially a little check work on my work. You might recall that several years ago, probably at least a dozen years ago now, one of the resolutions that the members entertained was the purchase of Section 6. You remember that, many years ago. At that point, I was the treasurer, and I was having to do a whole lot of land research and where was clear title on all of those lots over there and all that kind of thing before the board legitimately could put that resolution out for a vote of the community. Paul did a double check on all of my work. Paul Cuskley has indeed contributed greatly to this community from the very beginning, and he continues to be an awesome man and a wonderful person to recognize with this year's induction onto the honor roll board.
Families here with us, his grandchildren, his daughter. Glad you guys can come down. Grab this here. There you go.
Yes. Here's another thing that Paul Cuskley is responsible for. In order to reduce the amount of infrastructure burden in the community, Paul was the original sponsor of the combination of lots with reduced dues. And of course, working with the township, Paul was able to be the initial impetus for the combination of lots, which had a indirect impact on the amount of infrastructure burden on our roads, on our sewer system, on our water system, and the amount of the sizing of the amenities that the community needs. And so Paul also is credited with that great accomplishment.
Hey gang, real quick, one thing I wanted to point out, speaking of previous boards and candidates, and I did thank all of you. Gino Delasky is here with us in the back, and Gino, thank you for everything that you've done on your terms over the years. As your resume read, you truly were hands-on. You truly were. Thank you. Dan Brown, thank you.
One more correction.
Yeah.
Paul actually served 12 years on the board of directors, so
wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of service.
That is a lot of service. Thank you to his family, to his wife for
14.
Wow. I correct my correction.
Oh, yes, and we can't not keep mentioning, speaking of finances and board history, and another long-term, long-running board member, Mr. Phillips, Bruce Phillips. Bruce, thank you for that. Do you have anything you want to say about that? Okay. So, guys, Eileen McGregor was kind enough to make some cupcakes. We've got a cake here. I don't know where it is, but it's got the logo on it, the 50th anniversary Yeah, I'm not going to adjourn today. Eileen, thank you for that, and some coffee. After we're done with the meeting, which we are not done with yet, we invite you all to stay and participate. Have some cake, have some cupcakes, have some coffee. I guess next would be, prior to adjournment, questions. Does anybody have any general questions for any of us regarding anything going on in the association? And please speak loudly in your name and section.
Section 3, 164. I'm new as of December, and just generally, I know things have been difficult with COVID. Just wondering, as a new owner, I want to be a good neighbor, but I don't necessarily know all the rules. I've read them all, but again, there's a lot. So, is there going to be some sort of new homeowners meeting or so that's just really focused on what we should be knowing, what we should be doing as new owners?
Okay.
If I missed it, I don't know.
Just so I completely understand your question, since you're new, you're asking, is there a new home? There used to be, and I'm not sure with COVID the last few years, unfortunately, it hadn't taken place. There was a Meet Your Neighbors Memorial Weekend.
Jerry, there's a committee for new residents. They give out packets and information.
The ambassadors.
The ambassadors.
Committee.
Where are we at with that post-COVID?
I'm sorry?
Where are we at with that?
They're just starting to get it together, so I'm sure the new residents will be getting some information shortly.
Gwen's got some information out there.
They have a nice packet, it has a map, it has a synopsis of things around that are new, you know, the places to go, the grocery stores, the churches, some of that information for you. And including the rules, because of COVID, they stopped making home visits. So they're going to resume. It's going to take a while until everybody gets touched on, but you can probably ask many of them here with a long time that we kind of know the rules and regulations. Okay.
Gwen, thank you. Okay, in the back one. Brian, yeah.
Michelle Jackson, Section 4, Lot 104.
Okay.
I probably should address this to Brian, and I missed it. Would the board consider marking the tennis courts up on Tennis Court Lane for pickleball also, as they have done over Beaver Lodge, or is that already been?
Are you hanging out with my friends? They ask me that all the time.
I'd really like the dedicated court.
Boy, I
too,
just
but-
said Joe Melia when he walked in, I said, you gotta teach me how to play pickleball.
It's great.
Boom, yeah. Tennis is out, pickleball is in. Of course, Mr. Szymanski doesn't want to hear that, right? You know, and just a curious question, since it's an open meeting. Tom Szymanski, Big Ten player. There's 2 courts. What happens when you mark another pickleball court? Does that render that useless for tennis?
No.
No?
No, very difficult. To have double lines on the court.
You know, look, I don't want to, it could be something to be
It's
proposed
just something to consider.
to my fellow board members and our new member, something to be proposed. Maybe we look into possibly adding a pickleball court itself. I mean, it really is so popular, it's unbelievable. And I'm not even kidding. I know groups of people in here that play, and apparently you're one of them. So let us talk that over and think about it.
Great, I appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the question. Brian?
Yeah, Jerry, the new person on Deerfield Court was inquiring, he's not available today. The end of Deerfield Court, where the cul-de-sac is there, he was just inquiring and wanted to know, is there ever going to be a possibility of development of that?
At the end of Deerfield Court?
Correct.
Yeah.
Community.
There's no point. There's no point.
Yeah, hold on. Put me in place. Why am I going? Isn't that?
No.
There is a green area.
Yeah, right, that's your road.
Correct. That's,
Yeah, and I believe, don't we have a facility down there for?
No, that's.
that's Fawn Hill.
That's Fawn.
As it stands now, no, it's green area, so more likely than not, no.
It won't be developed. He's just, like you said, inquiring. That's
Don't
why he
hold
bought the
that,
house.
don't hold me to that forever, but as it stands now, there's nothing, and it's green area, it'll probably stay green area.
Thank you very
It's
much.
green area. Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Rosemary Forest, Section 1, Lot 419.
Section 1, lot 119.
419.
419, thank you.
The stray cats.
The
I
man?
opened my door,
and it's like a litter box.
Yeah.
And my neighbor has houses for cats. They're not helping them. By feeding them, you are not helping stray cats. Kittens are now having babies. It's horrible. What can be done, if anything can be done?
It's a constant work in progress, and it's come up at every single meeting, and I feel like in this last week it came up every single day. You are right. It's interesting. You walk a line of, are they wild animals? Because if they're wild animals, you shouldn't be feeding them.
Right.
There is a group of property owners in here that are taking their time to try to, and it's funny because it's a double-edged sword. They're trying to do right and take care of them, and they're trying to help spay and neuter them, and in the meantime they're feeding them, so that's creating a problem, as you mentioned. They are a problem. I'm not sure what the real solution is. I mean, myself, the board, John, we're all open to suggestions. I don't know if there's not really a good answer.
So that if I hose them as they're passing by,
If
on
you
my
want.
property, I'm going to be labeled. But still, you have people that are out there, you can't feed the deer. Why are you feeding these cats?
And again, a lot of people feed the deer and wild animals, and everybody thinks it's cute and fun and right, but it's really not. You're not helping them.
Not until it hits home.
Exactly. And one of the problems we run into that the cats in the winter then get into people's boats. So all of a sudden you've got irate property owners at the people trying to feed the animals. It really is a slippery slope. I understand years ago at the marina, it did thin out. I lived down by the marina. We had an issue. I took one of them in. She was adorable. I still have her to this day. That's 15 years ago. But yeah, it's definitely a problem, and it needs to be discussed more. John, do you have any input on that?
No.
Yeah, we'll do our best. I mean, how?
If you have any suggestions,
please.
On to get to us. We're more than happy to help out.
Jerry, there was a posting, I think, on recently, got a program that on here, that taking the cats, collecting the cats and things and having them do that. So it is a program that affects WLA. I saw the whole thing last night on the
Yes, that's like her situation, we contact her to have them trapped. See, legally, we cannot have them trapped, we just take it out.
That's interesting. Did you guys all hear that? No. Legally, we can't have them trapped and just taken out. And I don't even know what Howard, do you have any input on How do we end up with cats?
I have no idea. I never encountered that issue before, and I don't see why you couldn't trap them and have them maneuver, trap them with no returns. I have no idea.
And it's like you can never catch up with them. They breathe, they're like rabbits. They breathe so fast. They won't, they're overrun already. We've asked, we're not sitting on our hands. A lot of people do ask. We're trying and we're open to suggestions. So if you guys come up with any or you hear what any other homeowner associations are doing, we'll check on that too. I mean, because it has to be happening elsewhere. Thank you, and I apologize if it's a nuisance to you. Anybody else? I'm not sure who was first.
On the cat issue, there was on one of the WLE Facebook feeds, and a group that got together and they were looking for, if you wanted to donate, to have them fixed. And perhaps we could get that posting and put it on our website so that if people want to, it is on our website. Okay, so it's on my Facebook feed, so I didn't know that. I could, it's a humane way to at least fix the cats that are running around so that they don't continue to multiply. I know it's a big problem.
I know, it really is. So let's see where that leads. Hopefully, it'll, we can thin that herd out and it leads to a better situation with that. Anybody else? Well, do I have a Dale?
Motion to adjourn.
Terry, yes.
Can the board representative for recreation make a report Forgot us.
Terry, yeah, we did forget.
I know.
Who is that?
I don't know.
You know, there's been such limited recreation. I know you guys have been having some Zoom meetings and everything's starting to get back to normal. Guys, Al Cuccinello is our recreation liaison. Terry, thank you for that. Let's let Al speak a little bit on recreation. Sorry, Al. That's all right.
I was getting away with it. Recreation, I have the privilege of being the liaison to that committee. I think it's very good to this community. It gets volunteerism to the utmost. It's phenomenal. So many people come together to put on different events and whatnot for everybody to enjoy. We have the tri-chairs for recreation are Frank Carriziola, Jay Rivera, and Terry Cuccinello are the three chairs. Some of the activities coming up for July and August alone. Again, last year, very limited because of COVID. We all know what happened last year. This year, we're starting to hopefully move it up. And again, I encourage everybody to come out to the recreation meetings. If you have any input, things that you would like to see done or whatnot, and want to volunteer, they're always looking for new suggestions or new ideas. So it's the second Saturday of every month. Usually, I believe it's here or it's been here at the meetings. But the things that are coming up, the golf cart parade will start off the festivities on July 3rd. We are going to be having the annual picnic, the Independence Picnic. This year, a little change up from normal protocol. We're going to have the hamburgers and hot dogs that the board and volunteers will be cooking. But we're going to have 2 food trucks there, as well as the snack shack. There'll be a Mexican truck and a barbecue truck. There'll be a DJ performing up until 9 o'clock at night, so come on down, enjoy the day. They also are going to be, this year we're going to have a little extra for the kids. There'll be a different events that the children will be participating in between, I believe, at Casper and possibly at the field there. There'll be a sign up in the office. There's a $1 charge, and they're going to have sack races, egg tosses, tug of war, all kinds of different activities for the kids. So that should be a great time. If you have young kids, bring them out. They'll have a good time. Yeah, we're going to be doing something. I'm not sure the exact thing, but we're going to incorporate the 50th anniversary. I think there's going to be some T-shirts sold, miscellaneous items for the that as part of the July 3rd festivities. July 10th, we're going to be running a comedy night here at the clubhouse. Buy your tickets, BYOD. The flea market is going to be July 24th. The fishing derby is August 7th. August 14th, last year we did a drive-in movie at Casper Field. We set up the screen and we're going to have a movie over there. There'll be 5 different music at the parks this year throughout July and August. There's a schedule, I believe it's probably online as well as at the bulletin board. There'll be, I think, 2 sip and paints that will be run during the summer. The summer rec program is a little bit abbreviated from normal, but it's going to be held. We are having a summer rec program this year. It'll be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. There's a schedule out that you can see which days, which activity is going to take place. I believe ceramics is going to be one of the days. And the swim team is taking place again this year, the same manner that it was last year. There will be no outside meets again this year. It will be an internal swim team similar to what they had last year. And that's all I have. Anybody have any questions?
Oh, your wife. You know something?
Just real quick, we can use some volunteers for the picnic and the game, so if anybody can donate an hour
Terry, thank you. Al, thank you. Any other questions? In the back. Sure.
George Craig, section 1, lot 34. I just want to say that I'd like to say that the two people that do the boards out in front, they're going to do a fantastic job. I mean, they worked all through the winter. They kept the thing up all the way through that whole COVID thing. And I think Alan and his wife did a fantastic job.
We'll make sure they get that message. Well, listen, man, health and happiness to you all. It's good to see a good turnout here. I think we had a pretty good meeting. How about a motion to adjourn? Gail, motion to adjourn, second. Diane, all in favor? All right, thanks, gang.